Okay, I think we are live. So today is the Wednesday 4 p.m. Q&A session. My name is Priya. I am the Vice President of UBC Young Women for STEM, and I'll be moderating today's session. So if we want to kind of go in the order that we discussed, each of our club members can introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Christine, and I'm currently in my second year of graduate school. I currently study chemistry, and I obtained my Bachelor of Science from McGill University, where I studied bioorganic chemistry.
Hi, my name is Helia. I'm a fourth year microbiology and immunology student here at UBC. I'm also the president of UBC Young Women for STEM, and I'm super excited to be here.
Hi, my name is Isabel. My pronouns are she, her, and I am in my first year of my Master's of Science in Medical Physics at UBC. I did my undergraduate degree at the University of the Fraser Valley, where I did a double major in biology and physics.
Hello, my name is Chloe. I'm a second year undergraduate student and I'm majoring in chemistry.
Okay, great. Thank you everyone for introducing yourself. Our first question is, why did you choose UBC? And of course, if you're doing your master's here, if you want to talk a little bit about why you chose UBC for your master's, that'd be awesome.
I personally chose UBC for my grad school because I like the research that was going on here, number one, and that's a huge thing that you want to look to when you're going into grad school is whether or not you like the research, because if you don't like the research, then you're not going to like what you're studying. And definitely, I guess not so much about the school, but also the PI that I'm working under too. You have to like the research prof, that's going to be your supervisor, but about UBC itself, it's very innovative in comparison to other schools. So for instance, like I was deciding between McGill and UBC for grad school, but I just thought UBC was a lot more up to date in a lot of their research. And also I just like the research things better. So it's more about kind of what you're studying and not always about the actual school itself.
Yeah, so I personally chose UBC because it had a very good science program, and I've always just been interested in the sciences, but specifically the health sciences. So I knew for example, the microbiology and immunology program just had a lot of interesting research experiences. So for example, even in your undergraduate years, you get to work a lot in the lab. And I think that that's really cool. And you get to kind of be exposed to the, wet lab environment, as we call it as well. And also I just wanted to kind of be close to home, like hopefully save a little bit of money. I was raised on the North Shore, so it was just my top choice with regards to kind of like the distance from home. And it's a very beautiful campus as well. So that was another thing.
So a bit similar to Christine, I chose UBC because of the research and my supervisor. So during my undergraduate degree, I started working with someone at BC Cancer doing medical physics research, and then that same person took me on as their graduate student. And I also do love British Columbia and Vancouver as a city.
So when I was going to my undergrad 2 years ago, I didn't really know exactly what I wanted to study. I definitely really wanted to do sciences, and UBC had like a lot of really cool programs. They've got the co-op program and a lot of work learned that I'm interested in applying for. And I wanted to try a bunch of different courses or different types of sciences, and UBC offered that. So that's one of the main reasons I chose it. I also started my first year during the pandemic, and being close to home was important to me. And I grew up in South Delta, so it's like an hour from UBC. So that was another big contributing factor for me.
Great. And our next question is, what's your favorite class that you've taken so far? And if you're in your master's, maybe talk about something you did in your undergraduate degree.
I do have a class in my graduate degree that I've actually loved. Should I talk about that instead, since everyone else will be doing undergrads?
Yeah, go for it.
So, okay, well, yeah, so you do get to take some classes in your graduate studies. I know at UBC, you're required to take 4 courses, so which isn't a lot, but the good thing is that they are 500 level courses, and a difference between undergrad and graduate courses is that grad courses, you're kind of free to kind of almost tailor the course how you want it to be. It's a lot more project based, and that's what I've loved about this particular course called Characterization of Nanomaterials. So basically the prof will go over new research that's going on in the field, and then we had to read a lot of papers, and then one of our main projects was developing our own nanomaterial, telling the prof what it'd be useful in, telling him its applications, and then also how we're going to characterize it. So it's more you're learning stuff, and then you get to directly apply it to a new project that you want to work on. So that's something that I love about graduate courses in general, but also this course because I love nanomaterials and that's my research.
Yeah, sorry, there's like a fridge in the lab in the background that's making a lot of noise, but my favorite course so far has been a virology course that I took this term, actually no, last term. So it's a 400 level course, and it's a seminar course, which means that instead of the typical kind of lecture based course where the professor kind of like comes to the front of the class and starts kind of lecturing and has students writing notes, it's more like presentation based. You read through papers and go through case studies together. So this particular course was focused on virology, so the study of viruses. And we talked a lot about kind of the COVID-19 pandemic, not just from like how the virus makes you sick and all the cool stuff that is behind like the biological mechanisms of it, but we also talked about public health and how you can kind of communicate important information to the public more easily. So for example, we talked a lot about like vaccine mandates and a lot of the things that are kind of relevant to today's world. So I thought it was a really interesting course just because of that, because it made me see like different aspects of like science in the world as well, not just, like the technicalities of it. So that was really cool.
So I took a lot of science courses, but my favorite course by far at university was a course I took in women's studies. So in that course, I learned a ton about sociology and feminism, and I also got to unlearn a lot of things that have become really normalized in our society but are based in sexism. And it definitely made me a better advocate and got me involved in a lot of women in STEM things and gender equity in STEM commitments. So it's really good.
My favorite course so far was probably Chem 208. I took this last term. It's Introduction to Coordination Chemistry. I took it with Dr. Ava Nichols. And we kind of focused on organometallic complexes and just kind of how ligands bind to metal centers. And it's just very basic introduction into inorganic chemistry. And I am really glad I took it because I found that I enjoyed it a lot more than organic chemistry. And I'm looking forward to taking more courses like that later in my undergrad.
Awesome. And the next question is, what are some of your best study tips and some things that you've done throughout your university degree to become a better student?
Probably my best study tip would be don't worry about how other people are studying and focus on what works for you. I definitely had a huge learning curve at the beginning of university to compare as where I am now. Also, high school and university studying is a lot different. I thought university was going to be super easy and I could go and study the exact same way I was studying in high school. That is definitely not the case. One of the main things I learned was don't read your textbook, but actually listen to what your prof is saying and read the lecture slides and stuff like that. Of course, you can use your textbook as a compliment, but yeah, that was the main lesson I learned in first year. And then as you go on, definitely know when you are having trouble and don't be afraid to ask your prof for help, and also have a really good work to, I guess, life balance. So don't just sit there and study in room all day because there is this thing called burnout. So definitely make sure that you're taking care of yourself, not just academically. And then I guess that all those things also apply to grad school. Just make sure you have a good balance, you're organized, and know when to go to your supervisor, your prof for help.
Yeah, I definitely agree with everything that Christine just talked about, especially with regards to kind of like asking questions and going to office hours, because especially in undergrad, I guess like personally, I was kind of like really scared to approach my professors because they just look very intimidating. And just knowing that they're actually very nice people and they're there to kind of guide you through the whole like undergraduate process and go to your TAs, like discuss whatever questions you have, and it makes a really big difference in the end.
I'm definitely going to echo what was said before me. But yeah, one of the best things that I found coming to university was ensuring that I was actually having an active learning experience with the material, because I think it can be really easy to just sit in the classroom and take notes and stare at the lecture slides, but not actually be retaining any of the information. So certainly working in groups, being able to teach each other the content is extraordinary, and asking for help, going to office hours, really taking advantage of all of the resources that are available to you at university.
Yeah, I definitely agree with all of that. I think the main thing that I've found helpful anyways is sort of trying to teach the content to a friend, not necessarily in the course as well. Like even if you can give like a basic understanding to like a friend in like an arts course, but it really helps make sure that I fully understand everything and I'm not just regurgitating back my notes. Like I can actually give like a more simplified explanation.
Those are all very awesome tips. The next two questions I'm going to kind of combine. So what have you enjoyed most about university, or what has surprised you the most? Or you can say both.
I'll start with what surprised me most about university, and that is that I was always behind. I always felt like I was playing catch up with work, and I did not think that'd be a thing. Because in high school, I thought I'm very organized, I get my work done right away, but don't let stuff like that bother you. Things are going to pile on, pile on, pile on. But as long as you have that balance, like you'll be okay, and you'll eventually have a midterm, you'll eventually have a final, and it'll eventually like the work will be done. That was the thing that surprised me most about university. And then on a positive note, what have I enjoyed most about university? I would say that the breadth of different classes that you're actually allowed to take. As a science major, I wasn't able to only just take courses in science, but I was able to go outside and take electives in sociology and poli science, stuff like that. And it really gave me a good perspective on what my research is actually doing and contributing to. And I thought that was just absolutely amazing to me. And actually all those other classes that I was able to take that weren't just one stream influenced me to what I'm researching right now. So that's probably what I enjoyed most about university. Also, all the learning that you do outside of classrooms, so like different clubs you can join and stuff like that. There's just so many opportunities, and like you can make it whatever you want it to be.
Yeah, so I guess kind of like similarly, like I guess two things really surprised me. The first was like Christine was saying, just like the amount of work that you have, because in high school, you kind of take, I don't know, 6 to 8 courses, and it's usually typical throughout the term to do that. But then when you come to university, you take 5 courses in the first term. It seems like a lot of work, and you can very easily fall behind. So just kind of like learning how to best manage your time to get yourself through that. And the second thing that really surprised me was kind of like the size of the classrooms, especially in like first year and second year science courses. Like the big lecture halls for like chemistry and like intro to like biology and math, and it's absolutely insane, but it's also really cool. And I guess one thing that I really enjoy would also have to be kind of what Christine was talking about, just like being able to take a lot of different courses and just like engaging my brain in a different way. So for example, I've done like creative writing, and I've done like, I don't know, I took a course about comics, which was like so different from everything I've done, but it just exposes you to so many new things. So I've definitely enjoyed that quite a bit as well.
I would say what surprised me most about university was definitely the breadth of different topics of study and areas of research that people were doing. So I think when I started in science, I sort of had the idea of like being a doctor or a veterinarian or some kind of healthcare professional. But then once I got to university and I started talking to all my profs, I realized that there is so much more than that. So definitely surprising, but also really incredible. Basically, like as you're going about your daily life, and you're wondering like, oh, I wonder why this thing is like somebody somewhere has probably done their PhD thesis on that, and it was really like I think it gave me a lot of perspective when I started university, and I think that was a really enjoyable thing as well. And to branch off from that, what I enjoyed most was definitely meeting so many people from just like interested in so many different things, but all of us coming together through science and STEM and wanting to go about the world like in a logical and evidence-based way. And everyone is passionate about similar things as you. And yeah, it's just so wonderful. You definitely find your people and your place.
One thing that really surprised me about starting university was how difficult it is to get up in the morning for early classes. I've always been a morning person and I had no problems, with high school, the early starts, but I don't know. I don't know if it's just the different type of classes, but it's a lot more difficult to get up for an 8 a.m. than it was to get to school for like 7:30. And one thing that I've really enjoyed is same with Christine and Helia, the different types of courses you can take. Like, I really like that you don't have to just stay within your faculty or your major. Right now, I'm taking an earth science course. I've never taken anything like that before. It's a natural disaster course, and I'm really enjoying it. I'm surprised.
Great. The next question is, how important was the role of research in your studies? And maybe you could talk about some of the research experiences you had earlier within your undergraduate degree or whenever.
Research obviously right now is the main part of my study because I'm in grad school, but taking it back to undergrad, one thing that I do wish that research was a bigger role in my earlier start. I was too scared to go and ask profs for research positions when I was in my first and second year, worrying that I didn't have enough grades or I wouldn't sound smart enough to them. And that's something that I definitely wish I would have pursued earlier in my career, because when I finally did, again, it opened it. So my first research project I got, I actually ended up not liking. I realized I loved doing research, but I didn't like the science, and that's okay if you don't like your first research project. If you don't like any of your research projects, you're never glued down to one thing. I mean, unless you start a PhD for 5 years and you're kind of stuck, unless you want to do a master's instead. But you're always able to get out of anything. And that kind of led me to another research project with this professor. She ended up being my mentor. And it was me just having the courage to go and talk to her at a social event saying, hey, I love your research. And she really helped me apply to graduate school. And through that research, I realized I liked most stuff, but again, I wasn't in love with everything. So this helped me find the research that I'm doing now in grad school. And in grad school, research is your life. And it is the biggest aspect of your degree. Again, you have to take 4 courses, but everything else, you're expected to have results, publish papers, etc. At least in the master's that I'm doing, because it's thesis based or PhD. So yeah, so research is a huge part, but I absolutely love it. And if it's your thing, then definitely try multiple projects. Don't just stick to one project in your undergrad. Talk to as many profs as you can and get as much experience as you can too.
Yeah, so since I'm still doing my undergraduate degree, I've had the opportunity of doing some like summer research positions, and I've had the opportunity to work at the BC CDC for like a couple months, and I'm like probably going back there maybe in the summer or in the fall next year. And one thing that's super important about research, I think, is that you're able to kind of apply your scientific knowledge outside of a classroom setting. And it kind of allows you to have a better appreciation of how the whole scientific process works. Because even in first and second year, you end up reading a lot of research articles, and it just seems pretty simple and straightforward, and they show you the results and you're like, okay, like this seems easy. But then when you're in the lab and you're starting to apply those same concepts to do your own project, you see how many tiny details go into it and how much you have to like troubleshoot and how much you have to collaborate with others. And I think it really teaches you about how like the scientific process works and how you're able to kind of push that scientific frontier forward. And so that's a really cool thing. And it can also help you kind of figure out what you really want to do in the future. If there's a particular topic that you might be interested in, it kind of allows you to, have a new perspective about how that particular topic works. And then you can kind of gauge your way around your interests that way as well.
I would say that research is a really integral part of my studies, and I know a lot of others as well. Going off of what Helia said, when you're in the classroom learning, that it's really great to be learning that way, and you're exposed to a lot of different research topics, but you're always sort of a step away. So actually getting into a research project, whether it's co-op or something within your university, really gives you a much bigger perspective on whatever that project is, and actually working with the material that you've learned in class ideally. And you might find out that it's not quite what you want to do, as Christine said, and that's totally fine. Like that's still a really valuable learning experience. So I did a research project in my third year in bioinformatics, and then I did 2 research projects in my final year, one in medical physics and one in condensed matter physics. And they were all quite different, but they all really showed me what I liked about research and showed me what I wanted to pursue and what I didn't want to pursue. And I would say that having that experience on my CV was really important to getting into grad school and getting some of the internships that I got and scholarships, etc. So if you do have the opportunity, I would say definitely take advantage of research during your undergrad.
I haven't participated in any research projects yet. I'm in the process of applying for the co-op program right now. I'm not too sure what I'm interested in. I don't even know if research is something I want to pursue, but I want to try it out and see if I like it. But I don't really have much to add for this one.
All good answers. What is something that you wish you had known in your first year?
First year of undergrad, I wish I would have known right away how many different clubs and volunteering things I could get involved in. I was on the rowing team during my first year of undergrad, and that's kind of the only thing I knew, but I didn't know there was this vast amount of activities that I could actually get involved in. And as soon as I found that out in my second, third year, I was like, oh my goodness, I wish I'd been doing this for longer. And then also, I wish I would have known that majority of professors and TAs do want to help you learn and get better grades in their class, and that you shouldn't be afraid to go talk to them after class, and almost you can build relationships with them because they will be able to help you in the future. So those are 2 things that I definitely wish I would have known going into my first year.
Yeah, going into my first year, I think a big thing was kind of just about like my study habits. So in high school, I definitely procrastinated a lot, and I'd still be fine, especially before like exams and everything. I just like go at it the night before and it would be okay. But in university, you can't, like, I'm sure you could do that and get away with it, but it's really difficult, and it's really difficult to get a good grade that way. And I wish I had known that I have to like probably tweak my study patterns a lot more and kind of start studying in advance and kind of like learn the concepts at the core instead of just memorizing everything and trying to regurgitate the information.
I think my answer is going to be pretty similar. I would sort of like to say that I wish I had known like how to study better and be another student and how to ask for help. But I would also say that those were things that were just so foreign to me. So I sort of had to learn them just as I went, because I'm not sure that like that was just what I was used to in high school compared to university. But yeah, I feel like there probably were people who had told me beforehand, like, go to office hours, like actually pay attention in class. And I probably should have listened to that more. But you definitely learn in your first year. I think the biggest thing was just to like form connections and make like relationships with people in your classes, so you can help each other with homework and studying and everything like that. And it also just makes your university life so much more meaningful if you're not just like coming to class and leaving right after, but it makes it a fuller experience, and your grades will thank you.
Totally agree with all of that. Office hours was definitely a big thing. It's really important to go. I know I found it really intimidating, at least in my first year. And I know a lot of my friends did, but they really do want to help you. And then the other big thing I found was the importance of scheduling, because all those like little assignments and midterms really sneak up on you. So even like I was trying to rely on my memory, it did not work out very well. But even just like having like a sticky note on your desk or whatever with like the main things outlined for the next week or two, I found that really helps you keep on top of everything.
Great. And the next question is, what are your plans after you graduate?
Oh, well, I'm actually currently in a crossroad where I have to make a decision whether or not I want to pursue a PhD or risk it all and apply to med school. So my two plans are, number one, either become a clinical chemist, which requires a PhD, and then plus 2 years of a postdoctoral fellowship, which is kind of like a condensed med school, because a clinical chemist, which majority of people have not heard of, I just recently heard of it, is someone that works in a hospital lab, and they read and interpret results for different doctors, and they read different cases, suggest different tests to run or different things that the patient might have, etc. You're like a behind the scenes, you're like a family doctor of a lab is how it's been described to me. And then my other plan after I graduate is going to be a doctor. However, if I was a doctor, I definitely want to do something more research based. So perhaps go into something like pathology or chemical pathology, something along those lines. But I'm currently at a crossroads, and that's okay. You don't have to know what you're going to do right away. And I definitely, during my undergrad, I thought doctor, but as soon as I got into grad school, I was like, oh my goodness, what Isabel said earlier is that there's a slew of other things you can do. And then you're going to find out, oh my goodness, I actually like this stuff. So if anyone wants to tell me which path to go down, I'd be more than happy to listen to any advice.
Yeah, so for me, I am planning to apply to medical school as well. So I did my MCAT in the summer, so that's all sorted. Hopefully, it's good enough that it'll be okay, because it's already so competitive and it can get stressful, but that's all right. And basically, that's the plan for next year. So I'm graduating in May, and the plan is to apply next September. So for like the next school year. Hopefully it goes well, so we'll see.
I am going to be graduating from my master's degree in a year. And after that, I will probably do my PhD in medical physics. And then following that, I will do a residency to become a certified medical physicist and hopefully eventually work in the hospital. So for anyone who doesn't know, a medical physicist is a pretty broad term for basically anyone who is using physics and math and engineering applied to biology and medicine. But most of them who work in the hospital are working in diagnostics and treatment planning and sort of working in a really interdisciplinary team. Lots of neurodegenerative disorders and cancer research involved.
I don't really know what I'm going to be doing. I'm in my second year of undergrad right now. I might decide to apply for grad schools. I also might not. I'm just trying to figure out what I want to do right now. I'm trying a variety of different courses, and I don't know. Hopefully I'll figure it out within the next year or so, but everything can change. I'll just kind of play it by ear and figure it out as I go.
Awesome. It's good that we have kind of a broad range of ages and stages in career. That way, everyone can kind of get a good view of kind of what different time points in your university life could look like. So this is probably just a question for Christine and Isabel. What are some tips or recommendations that you have for applying to graduate school? And what is something you wish you would have known about the process?
Some tips and recommendations for applying to graduate school. I would definitely say make sure that you are looking into the research well before you contact professors, because number one, it's going to look a lot better if you actually get an interview with them that you know what you're talking about. And number two, again, you don't want to go into something that you're not going to like. So really, really do your research in terms of what profs groups you're actually applying to, and the university in general. Even though if it's a big name university and it sounds great, make sure you actually like the research that's going on there. Another recommendation or tip would be it is important to make relationships during your undergrad with different profs, with different professionals, so you do have those strong recommendation letters, and also they could just kind of help you in the whole application process. And I actually got comments about different recommendation letters that I had, so like it definitely does play a role in terms of applying to graduate school, because it is more of a non-traditional. It's not like an undergrad, you're not just learning and taking a test. It's more about applying your knowledge. So it is a different type of I guess school than undergrad. So that's why I definitely say those relationships are important. And then something I wish I had known about the application process, probably I applied to a lot of grad schools, and I probably shouldn't have. I was just really nervous that I just wanted to have a bunch of backup options, and that's a good thing. But also sometimes it costs money to apply to, so definitely check that out. Also, another thing would maybe be check out how much they're going to pay you if you are in a program that you're eligible to get paid, and all the different scholarships that you can apply to. Make sure you also look into all that stuff too to compensate for those tuition payments. But yeah, I'd say that's about it.
I definitely experienced very similar things. Probably what's most important for applying to grad school is having like a strong CV going into it. So making sure that in your undergrad, you are seeking out experiences and opportunities to explore like research and extracurriculars that would build a foundation for your grad studies. Definitely by far the most important thing in a graduate program, in a research-based graduate program, is your relationship with your supervisor, I would say. So definitely take the time to look into different people's labs, make sure that you're really interested in their research, and then also that you get a good feeling when you meet with them. So first of all, definitely have lots of meetings before you actually say yes to a grad program with different supervisors and with their students. So you get a feel for the lab and how the day-to-day would go, and just that you would end up feeling supported, because especially if you're in a PhD, you are dedicating like 5+ years to be with this one person. So you want to make sure that you have a really solid relationship there. And I think I learned a lot about grad school during the application process, probably. It was definitely talked about in undergrad, but not enough. So I think one thing that I didn't really know is that when you're applying, if you have already talked to a supervisor and they can like vouch for you, then there's a really strong chance that you will get into the school or the program that you want, as long as everything is aligned and your grades are good enough and all of that. But if you just apply to a program without like having reached out to someone first, then your chances are a lot slimmer. So, I mean, I think it makes more sense anyways. Like if you're applying to, let's say, UBC, ideally you have one or a few people that you already know you want to work with and you're interested in. But yeah, definitely before you apply, talk to as many people as you can and make sure that you're feeling good about it, because it's a really big decision.
All very good advice. And our last question is there anything you would recommend for someone considering university or STEM and STEM?
I guess someone considering university, just know university isn't for everybody. If you don't want to go to university, that's also okay. There's so many different paths. University does not mean just because you go to university is not any better than going to pursue trade school or something like that. Like whatever you want to do, make sure it's the right fit for you, because university is a commitment. It is a lot of work, and it is a lot easier when you like what you're doing and you're not just doing it because I need to get a university degree, but you're getting a university degree because it's helping you pursue the career that you really want to do. In terms of doing STEM, I would 1,000,000% recommend going into STEM. You get to learn about how everything works around you. You can apply it to almost any single field in life. Like I said, when you take different courses outside of STEM and you see how STEM applies to everything, like it just kind of connects everything in this world and how everything kind of works. And Isabel said it before, like it's about evidence-based research, like stuff like that, like proving things like with backgrounds and facts. And it's just the most wonderful thing. If you really do want to, if you're curious about everything and anything, then highly recommend a STEM degree, because it will never get boring and there will always be something new that you can learn. Research will never stop happening. Things will never stop being invented. So I love STEM and I recommend anyone to go into STEM 1,000,000%.
Yeah, those were all amazing points. I completely agree with everything Christine just said. And also, I guess I'll just add in onto all of that, because I totally agree with all of it, is that it can be really stressful. And I know that the application process and kind of getting things started, it can be really overwhelming. And just knowing that you're going to get through this, we have a lot of resources here at UBC as well as every other university, not just academic wise, as well as for your mental health and everything. All of that's really important. You're going to meet a lot of new people, make friends, try to have some fun as well. Try to, I don't know, have extracurriculars, do sports, go to the gym. Try to not have school as your core and central thing only. It's really important to kind of put some time aside for other things that you love doing as well. And about STEM is amazing. Again, Christine said it all. It's just such an amazing feeling to be a part of this giant scientific community where you're just helping each other kind of advance technology and advance knowledge in the world. And yeah, it's just really cool.
Definitely, I feel exactly the same way. Starting university for me really has been the best thing. It's opened me up to so many opportunities and so much knowledge and so many wonderful people. So certainly it doesn't have to be for everyone, but if you are interested, especially if you're interested in STEM, I would definitely say go for it. And one thing that I would say is go for it, even if you don't quite know what you want to do. That definitely should never be a hindrance. I came into university really certain that I was going to be a medical doctor, and basically after the first year, I was like, oh, actually, there's so much more that I haven't explored because I didn't even know it was an option. So as you're going through, you will find your path, and you will take courses that will really resonate with you, and you'll know that that's what you want to follow. Or maybe you'll take courses and you know that that's not what you want to follow, but that's totally fine. And I think that especially in something as diverse as STEM, things can always change. So I know that a few questions ago I gave my answer for what I'm planning to do in the next 7 years or so. And that's the path that I'm on right now, medical physics, but I'm totally comfortable with the idea that it might change. I might go into science communication. I might want to be a prop one day. I'm not really sure, but my foundation with my STEM degree has definitely set me up for a lot of different options. So I would say it's really just about opening doors.
You guys covered a lot of really important points there. But I'd say don't be afraid to reach out, whether it's to like your prof or TA or to like your classmates as well. It's really important to make connections, and it's a great way to like feel more connected with your community and what you're learning. And it is definitely very helpful and
Okay, if that is all we have for our questions and answers, we will end the live stream now. So